Welcome to the Not in the Job Description podcast. I'm Scott McLaughlin.
And I'm Chris Kiernan.
No matter what type of job you've had, there were situations that happened to you during work that you couldn't wait to tell your friends about.
We interview a variety of guests about some of their crazy stories from work, from entry-level food service industry jobs to doctors and attorneys. We will explore funny, gross, embarrassing, scary, and sometimes almost unbelievable stories that people have experienced while on the job.
Keep in mind that our guests or the companies they work for may be masked in order to protect the innocent, or maybe even the guilty. On today's show, we talked to Luke, who worked in the movie theater. Welcome, Luke.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Hey, Luke.
So this is a very odd show because this is something that Luke's wanted to do for a while because he's had a lot of experience working in the movie theater. But me being his dad, I just always bust his chops. So this should be an interesting show because I'm kind of curious what he has to say. I'm sure I've heard some of these stories, but I try not to talk to my children. So we'll see. Some of this is going to be pretty new. Is that right?
Yep. Probably to you because you never really listen to anything I have to say anyway.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
So in all seriousness, I know you worked at a movie theater, and I know now you're kind of involved in the entertainment production business. So you've always been around this, but getting your start in the movie theater, like, how does that even work? I know you worked there, but tell us what you did, where you started and where you ended.
So it all stemmed from me basically hating being a camp counselor because that was a horrible job in itself. I could do a whole 10 minutes on one whole month of that. But yeah, it was the first job I got ever since I got my driver's license. I wanted to work in movies because I enjoyed watching movies. I started out as an usher, so I'd be cleaning the theaters. And the first time I started cleaning was during it was Zootopia.
Okay.
Every theater of Zootopia was so horrible to clean because they were always packed to the brim. That was what I came into.
Is that a kid's show? I'm not really familiar.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah, so Zootopia was a kids show, and it was around 2016, and it was in for probably about 14 weeks, which is long for a movie to be in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just all these movie theaters just packed full of little kids just creating chaos.
Yeah, so imagine walking up on D-Day. It would be like cleaning up after that every single time.
Look, I've been at many restaurants, and I can see what like one kid can do at a table. Crackers, cookies, shit all over the floor. I couldn't imagine a theater full of that shit.
Oh yeah, some days were worse than others, but I miss the old seats because they weren't the recliners. It would just fall through.
Right.
And like, at least when they were leather, they were easy to clean off. But when they were cloth, oh my God.
Oh, no. Don't say that. I'll never go into the theater again.
Well, the chocolate that would get stuck on it, we'd have to take a rag to it for about 10 minutes to try to get that damn stuff out. And it wasn't like we were using chemicals. We couldn't use chemicals on the cloth. They would just sit in there and make it wet. So we'd just sit there with a rag and just start wiping it down.
And let's face it, all you're doing is wiping it in. You're not wiping it down. You're pushing it into the fabric enough so people don't recognize it when they sit on it.
Well, it's too dark in there, so how could you tell?
And I'm sure that's one thing, right? You go to a movie theater, you're used to going in and it's half lit. Then, of course, the movie starts, it goes completely dark. After the movie, half lit. But when you're in there, it's full light and you can see it all, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. There's cleaning lights that we can turn on. And sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. It just kind of depends on how fast we have to move, how much time we have between shows. So, yeah, at the end of the day, usually those don't come on. But if like we have a spill, like, okay, we're going to turn on the cleaning lights. We're going to go get the mop bucket so we can see where it is. And that way we can mark off the right area.
I'll tell you what, if you ever wanted to ruin the movie business, forget about the cleaning lights. Bring in a black light and then just televise, because that's got to be disgusting. Because there's no way those theaters get like a good, or let me ask you, do they get a good, like, thorough steam clean or anything like that on a regular basis?
The way my theater worked, we hired these cleaning ladies that would come at night. They were the sweetest. And they were all named Maria. Super nice ladies. I love them all. It was a mother, a daughter, and then I think a sister every once in a while. I loved them to death. They were so funny. They were so sweet. But like, they couldn't touch what happened to those theaters in one day.
I mean, they weren't.
They would spot clean it, make it look good, but there's no way they cleaned.
They weren't packing like a Stanley steamer with them or anything, right?
No, there's no way they were disinfecting anything.
Yeah, forget that. Unless they were in a hazmat suit, I'm not hiring them.
Yeah, they were really nice. But we actually had taken a black light to certain areas of the theaters.
Please don't speak any more about that right now.
Well, just don't go in the hallway upstairs of the one I'm talking about.
Oh, gross.
We don't know why there was stuff all over the wall there.
Was that the secret spot? Like all the kids knew where to go to?
The makeout area.
Right. The
It's
hanky
not even
panky.
that secret. That was the issue. It was just a little corner. So there's a stairs you can go down to get to the main lobby. It was just little, like, I don't know, like it's an extension. It's just weird to explain, but there were teens doing stuff there.
Look, man, I was 15 once. All you need is a hallway that had a curve in it that nobody could see you. That's all you
Right.
need. That's all you need.
The problem was everybody could see you as soon as you came for the door. Like, I don't know why people would go to it. And
Well,
there was-
because they're 15.
foot
They're still
traffic.
dumb.
That's true too.
When Scott and I were young, you could get away with so much in the movies. You could sneak in easily. You could stay, watch other movies. I feel kind of bad for these kids today because now you have to go to a movie, you have to pick your seat.
Yeah, it's a sign now.
You know, so you can't like just hang out then go into another movie because there won't be a seat for you. I don't know. It just seems a little bit like this generation is missing out on all the fun times we had.
Yeah,
Well, I'm dating myself here. You could do that when I worked there.
right.
It was recently we just gone to the assigned seating. So what would happen is we'd watch people go through all kinds of movies, like, and at that point it's above our pay grade. We didn't care unless manager's like,
Right.
oh yeah, you
Sure,
have to go
yeah.
care about that. So,
Right.
and it's not like we were losing money. That's the studios.
Well, and also, like, it's a victimless crime in a way. If you bought a seat to a show and there's 5 extra kids in there that didn't buy a seat, they weren't assigned seats, so who cares? Just pick another seat. It's rare that they were sold out.
Well, if you spent $30 on popcorn, I feel like you should be able to watch that second movie anyways.
That's true. Now, I know my friend Jerry, Luke's uncle Jerry, we used to go to a theater that was local here. It was called the Continent, and it was the place to go watch
yeah.
movies. And his mom would pack, 8 of us in the back of her station wagon, the big old, station wagon that had the wood side panel on it and everything.
Family truckster.
That's what it was. And she would drive us there. Well, we didn't have any freaking money. So we'd pool our money together. Now, his mom would have been pissed if she knew we were doing this, but all 8 of us show up there. We all pool our money and we would buy 2 tickets. And then one person would go in with the other person and they'd go and they'd buy their popcorn and they'd walk in and they'd sit down. And then one of the people would hand the ticket stub to the first person who would come back out, give it to another person. And we would just do this until we got everybody in.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I probably owe Sylvester Stallone money for Rockies 2 through 4 for that, because I'm sure we did it for every one of them.
There was one incident that I do remember. I forget what movie was playing, but there was a group of 25 kids. They were going to see some kids movie. I don't know what the movie was for that either, but they all eventually kind of made it to one of our smaller theaters. So I keep hearing all this stuff over the radio, getting complaints, and all of a sudden my manager comes out to me and she's like, hey, can you go handle whatever the hell's going on in the theater down there? I'm like, sure, I'll go look. So her and I walk down, and because she was hearing calls over the radio, it's like a lot of people trying to sit in there. We walk in, these kids are sitting on the floor below the seats where you could barely see over the half wall to watch this movie. And we had to sit there and kick each one of them out.
Was it sold out? Like, why were they sitting there?
They were trying to sneak in to see the movie because they couldn't see it because I think it was rated R or something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, they stared daggers at me the entire time.
Of course.
And it's not like they would do anything. These were like stupid punk ass kids. And as I was,
Hey, take it easy. I was one of those stupid punk ass kids.
that's why I have such apprehensions about them. And then the funny part was we walked out afterwards, me and a coworker, after our shift, and they were still sitting outside, all 25 of them waiting for their parents to come. And they started saying a bunch of shit, and I'm just like, dude, I'm off the clock. You can't pay me to care about what the hell you're saying, and walked away.
No kidding. So, you worked there for a few years.
Yep, 4 years of my life.
4 years of your life. That's like a fourth of your life at the time when you were working there. So I guess that's a pretty big deal. Like what kind of job? I mean, you said usher. Like what did you ever have to sell popcorn and shit like that? So, the 800% markup popcorn.
So when I worked there, I eventually became a jack of all trades. I could do a little bit of everything there. So I did work concessions. That was the second thing they trained me on. Third thing was podium, which is the most brain dead job you could ever do. You could just tear tickets and tell people, yeah, your theater's over this way.
Yeah, that doesn't even seem right anymore. Like that job just, it doesn't seem like that should even be a job, right?
Right.
Well, we went to the movies the other day and they basically did nothing. They maybe scanned it and then
Yeah.
said, oh yeah, you're going this way. So it's still the same nonsensical job. And then they taught me box office, which there was you'd meet some funny characters there, especially people trying to take their kids to rated R movies. And then them coming back at you like, why'd you let me go take my kid to an R-rated movie? I'm like, you're a parent. You do
Right,
with
yeah.
that.
Well, there's a big R right beside the title, so I think that's on you.
Now, I know when we talk about what jobs are even there, ironically, when I was in the Philippines, this was like 2006, 2007, that country is very poor. It is a third world country. And I offered to take a bunch of my employees to the movies. And they were very excited. And they were like, can we get popcorn? I'm like, well, hell yeah, we're going to get some popcorn. They didn't know who they were messing with, right? Because I'm the popcorn master. So I'm like, yeah. And they were like, what kind do you want? And I said, what kind? Yeah, I'll take some popcorn. They were like, no, what flavor? So this is the first time I ever knew this was something. It was way before it came to at least Columbus, Ohio. These guys who are living in like shanties, they literally are living in huts. But at work, they had access to a computer. So when it was movie time, they got online, they got their seat. It was an assigned seat. They ordered popcorn. They ordered what flavor they wanted the popcorn to be. Like when we got there, I bet you there wasn't 3 people running that entire theater. And we saw, I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. And I'll never forget, it was just, here they are living in squalor, but they had the most efficient and effective movie theater I've ever seen in my life. We pulled up there and all of our stuff was waiting for us.
At
It
your
was
seat.
already done. It was insane. Yeah, it was at the seat.
Nice.
And it was like, this is crazy. But that's what you had in the Philippines while Luke over here was tearing tickets and telling people to get up because they didn't pay for the theater.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind on that. I don't think the United States has a work ethic it once had.
Maybe
and
not.
that was why one of the reasons I kind of left, just because you're dealing with dumbass teenagers. Like once you get hit a certain age, it's like, okay, I can't deal with the sass back. I can't deal with somebody just not trying to do their job. That's what they're being paid to do.
I'll remind you that a couple years before you thought that, you were that dumbass teenager. Just for the record here.
I've never been that way at work. I've never done that at work.
Okay.
Only around the house, I promise.
I was going to say, I can tell stories here, so let's just be very careful here, boy. No, that's true. I mean, I've said it before. I think my kids have a great work ethic. Chris and I, of course, worked at York Steakhouse. Pretty glamorous job. Yeah, when there were bathrooms that needed to be cleaned, we cleaned bathrooms.
Right.
We were cleaning junk off floors. It didn't matter what it was. We were cleaning it up. So I never saw that anything other than it's a part of the job, and I want to look like I'm always doing a good job at whatever I do. So we did it.
Right.
It was that simple.
So I got to think that when you're going to these movie theaters to clean up, whether it's a kid movie, an adult movie, a horror movie, all the same, right? There's just trash and junk, the stuff you would expect, popcorn, soda, containers. Did you ever just find like crazy stuff like, oh, I bet they didn't realize they left this here?
So one of the most unfortunate ones we would find is a dip cup. And then sometimes it'd be
gross.
in the actual cup holder, not a cup.
Right.
So those people, I wish they would burn in hell because they're horrible people for doing that. At least in a dip cup it's contained, but oh well. Yeah, we found some weird shit. Like we've once found a condom, just a condom not used, just a condom
there.
just sitting out.
That was from Chris.
Shh, don't tell.
And then we found a bunch of cheesecake once, and we took it into the break room. We all had it, and we tried to wait around for like 10 minutes to see
For the
somebody.
cheesecake owner to come?
Yeah, because
Oh, wow.
this was like probably $40 in cheesecake. So we're just like, shit, we're gonna take this back to the break room and enjoy it.
You guys thought you hit the lottery, didn't you?
Yeah, we
no
did.
joke.
That was a good night. Everybody's pretty happy that they got free cheesecake. And it was a lot. It was no little.
Outside of $40 cheesecake, any valuables that you remember seeing? Because I imagine people lose shit at movie
Oh,
theaters
yeah.
all the time.
Watches, wallets. There was one time somebody lost their gun in a seat, which was interesting
Happens.
to hear about. The officer was not too happy. The officer on duty was not too happy about that. He's like, buddy, why do you even have your gun on you in the theater?
Evidently, he doesn't watch the news, but I get where he's coming from.
Well, his issue wasn't that he had the gun. It was that he was so stupid that it would fall out of his
I'm on board with
holster.
that too. Yeah.
That he was more pissed about that than him actually doing that.
Yeah,
But
that goes against the idea of responsible gun ownership. Keep it with you.
So did you find the gun before the guy realized he lost it, or did he lose it and came back in and said, hey, I think I left my gun in the theater?
he dropped it first and then came out to us like, hey, I dropped my gun in the seat. Can you come get it for me? Because this is with the recliners. So they're not easy to kind of get if you don't know how they work.
So your theater didn't allow guns, right?
I mean, there was a sign posted, but
Yeah.
I
I mean,
wouldn't
not that
trust
you
a
were
single
enforcing
person.
it or patting people down, but that just seems silly to me. If I had a gun in a theater and I left it there and I had to go back and get it, I'd be like, I think I dropped my keys. I'll just go look. Why would he possibly say I left my gun? That's just stupid.
Well, he said it to a police officer, so I really don't know where he was going with that.
Yeah, it's even dumber than I thought.
He
Yeah.
said it to an off-duty police officer, but still, he could have been arrested technically for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about you didn't pat people down. I hope they don't start that at movie theaters because I'll never be able to bring my drinks and free snacks in.
Even as an employee, I did that, Chris. Come on.
Now, listen, I catch all kinds of shade from my family because I'm a professional movie watcher. I have no problem buying the popcorn, even at the 800% markup. But here's something I do. I bring my own salt because you can't have enough salt for me, right?
Right.
So I'll bring my own salt, and I just learned a new trick. You know that stuff that they say is butter, but there's no way it's butter?
Right.
I bring a container in, and I fill the container with that butter too. So once you get past like the first 3 inches of the popcorn, you can butter the top of it. So, I'm a professional, Chris.
I'm about to take you to the next level then.
Bring it.
What you really need to do is take a straw and stick it down in the middle of your popcorn and spray the butter into the straw. So now it goes down into the middle of your tub of popcorn.
You just blew my mind.
Hey,
Well,
I do.
I do remember telling you what it was. You know what it is, right?
It's probably
It's
just
just
like oil,
Canola.
butter flavored
It's
oil.
canola.
Yeah. Yeah, that shit that's gonna put us all in the grave early. But I'll soak that popcorn in it and then throw some salt on it, and that's why you guys will be at my funeral next year.
Do you also cut a hole in the bottom of the container?
Only, never mind.
Speaking of holes in containers, one of the last things that I actually got to witness before I left there, I had never had this happen before, but I walked into a theater and I saw something that just wasn't right. I looked down and there's these very front row seats in front of the screen, like right there in front of it. I just see a dude sitting there. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I walk down and I see a head go up and down.
Oh boy.
And I was just like, okay, I need to tell somebody. I need to get them in here for this because I think it's too funny to not to.
Please tell me that was not in Zootopia.
No, well, it was in some other. It was some rated R movie, but you could see them from the top.
Right.
The top, you could see what was going on down there.
Look, man, movie theater's cheaper than a hotel.
Exactly.
And for some people, you got to do what you got to do.
And with the prior knowledge of what my manager told me once before, they'd caught people doing stuff like that before in theaters.
Of course.
And their way to deal with it would be, hey, tag me in.
Yeah.
And one of them told me a story about how they caught somebody in the back of a car and there was a police officer with him. So it's like the security guard knocks on the window and they are deer in the headlights. They look at him and the officer says, hey, my buddy over there calls next. And that's how you get the best reaction. But I'm like, I don't want to get fired for saying that.
Right.
But I walk over to them and I say, excuse me, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And the deer in the headlights look of shame. It made I had to work so hard not to laugh at these two 17-year-old kids just being absolute idiots. And my manager was there. I called him over. He's like, you need to watch this.
Look, they're 17. I wouldn't say they're idiots. They're just horny 17-year-olds. They don't got a lot of places to go.
I mean, the car sounds better than a theater with 100 people in it.
Well, you
Personally,
didn't
to
say
me.
there was 100 people in it, but I get what you're saying.
I'm not an exhibitionist. I choose not to be.
No, I think that would be a tough part of the job to be like, excuse me, sir, ma'am, could you please stand up and leave? Because there are kids in the theater and this isn't appropriate. That would be a very weird job.
Well, the weirdest part is like shit keeps happening in that theater specifically. Like a couple weeks later, we caught a man and a woman at a 10:30 a.m. showing of Angry Birds having sex.
I told them I liked Angry Birds, and it was none of their business what I was doing.
But like they've also developed this thing where they have a laser pointer just kind of shame people because we're up in the projection booth trying to get them through that. And this other weird shit happens in that specific theater. I don't know what it was, but like the last year I worked there, a lot of dumb stuff happened in there.
Speaking of dumb stuff, if my recollection is correct, you almost didn't have that job very long.
Which time?
Well, first of all, let me explain to any listener to kind of one of my hobbies. I collect paper currency, and I collect errors, and I collect all kinds of things with United States currency, not just, putting it in my bank, but, old money. So my kids have seen paper money around the house, and they probably heard an ass load of information about paper money that they never wanted to know because their old man is interested in it and is trying to teach them history with it and explain, hey, here's what this means on this bill. And I remember you coming home saying that they weren't very happy with you because you accepted a counterfeit bill.
Hey, I blame my trainer for that one.
Your trainer because you don't know what a $100 bill looks like?
No, it was because I did lie to you. I didn't start as an usher. My first day was at concessions. I was working up there. There's a nice, sweet young girl. I love her to death. Her name is Megan. She was training me on the register, and she was one of their veterans. She was there for like 2 years before me, and we hit a rush. There was just person after person after person, each order worse than the next. So then this guy comes up and he's like, yeah, I just want a large popcorn, hands me the large bill. The front of it looks fine. I didn't think much of it. And then a couple hours later, the manager comes out and he says, Luke, can you come here for a minute? Because I was running under my number. They wanted me to start running, like get me started running.
Yeah.
And they brought me in like, did you realize this was fake? I'm like, I had no idea. They turned the bill over. The back of it was black. Like ink, like black ink. And I'm just like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm like, so what does
was
it
it
mean?
Just photocopied or something?
I have no idea.
Okay.
They might have the bill to this day. I have no idea. I thought I saw it the last time I was in there 4 years ago. And yeah, it was I was so embarrassed. I felt so bad because I gave away $85.96. Right. I was so pissed at myself.
They made that up with the next 2 popcorn sales, right. So don't worry about it.
I've never messed with currency ever since that moment, which led to the second time I almost got fired, which was a young stupid kid was trying to shortchange me, and I looked at him. I'm like, I'm not playing this game. Get the fuck out of my line. Which is not like...
Yeah, word gets around that you're one who will accept fake money. So they were like, oh, we'll shortchange his ass too.
Well, yeah. And the thing with this kid, he's like then starting to threaten and fight me. And because he keeps trying to ask for different bills. I'm like, I wasn't born yesterday. He asked for a manager. The manager comes out and he talks to the manager. I go back so the manager can talk with him. And the manager comes back and I'm expecting to get chewed out. And he's just like, don't do it again. And walks away. So I'm like, whew, I sweat bullets over that one, but those are closest times I've ever been fired. And mind you, this is just stupid 16 to 19-year-old Luke. Like, I did not have the same tolerance, patience, skills that I've kind of developed today, but I had a short fuse when it came to money. I don't mess with that at all.
Well, not after your first interaction there.
I used to work for, a rather large grocery chain, and I was on break, and the store I worked at in the deli had like a little sit-down restaurant type situation. So I'm sitting there eating my ham sandwich or whatever it was, and I hear the girl behind the register go, oh, look, I've never seen a $100 bill with George Washington's picture on it before. So my job at the time at the store was I counted all the tills at night and, balanced all the money and everything. So immediately I'm thinking, oh boy, she got hosed on this. So I go, hey, let me see that $100 bill. So she gets it, and it was a $1 bill that had hundreds taped to the corners,
Nice.
and she
Oh my
took it as
God.
$100. So her drawer was short about $89, probably, right?
Probably every week.
Right. Right.
Well, the funny thing is, the worst offenders of like fraudulent cash that we would have are older seniors trying to pass tens, because tens are the ones that have been recently the uptick of fakeable currency, and the only reason you can tell is if the 10 in the bottom corner, if it sparkles or not, and if it's been washed, it won't have that, and that was one of the big things we had to look out for. And then we would also check it with the markers, and we do the black light. But these old women wouldn't know. And I'm just like, is there a ring of old women passing these things? Because it always was older women.
Well, let's be honest though. You're suspect immediately unless you're 9 years old with 3 of your 9-year-old friends. Who's using cash anymore? I mean,
Right.
everybody's using credit cards, unless you're either super old and you just don't want the government knowing your business, or you're so young you can't even have a credit card. I think the first red flag is that you're paying with cash.
Yeah, anymore for sure. So I'm sure you saw all kinds of people, right? Like obviously you have your normal moviegoers, you had your kids that are messing around. Vagrants ever try to come in maybe and I don't know, just try to hang out all day if it's cold out, is a nice warm place to be, or
Not that we have a lot of vagrancy in the area we live in, but get out of the cold. Somebody might travel.
So we occasionally had homeless people that would come in every once in a while, or they'd sleep in doorways, which wasn't okay because the volume of people coming in and out of the doors.
right.
There was one time which was quite sad, and we did feel quite bad, but it's a business. We couldn't do what she was wanting to do there. We had a woman in our bathroom, like half naked, washing her clothes in the sink.
Oh,
And it hurt all of us. My general manager, who isn't the most keen on interacting with customers in that way, he had to go in and talk to her. We all felt so bad. Like we gave her one of the coats from the Lost and Found that had been there
that's
for
sad.
weeks.
yeah.
Right.
And,
Give her some
like,
cheesecake.
we did give her some concessions food on us. 'Cause
That's nice.
We just want to make sure like there wasn't any hard feelings. We could not facilitate this because it's a business.
Right. And you gave her a gun for safety.
No, she just had to
That you
reach in the
found.
seat and find it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, then there was also like criminals that would come in from time to time. And by criminals, I mean sometimes just genuinely sketchy people, or people that would just leave illicit substances all over the place. The first one that I mentioned, I was standing at the podium and I was tearing tickets. This dude with 6 JCPenney bags runs past me. And there's 2 of us there because this is before all the COVID stuff, so they could have 2 people tearing tickets because we had a lot of people. So I'm like, you stay here. I'm going to chase this dude. And I remember what he looked like to this day. I walked in there and he was like all sketched out. He was kind of trembling. He was on something, I guarantee it. And he's like, "What? Come on, man. I'm just trying to try on my clothes. I just leave me alone, man. I can't even try on my clothes." I'm like, "Sir, this is a movie theater." And he's like, "Oh," and he gets all disgruntled, walks out, slams the door as much as he could with those doors. And he just is like, "I'm going to sue this place. Oh, God damn it. What is it called? Skinamax?" I'm like, "Yes, please go sue Skinamax." And so he runs out with all these bags. And my manager's like, "Are you able to tell us what he looked like?" Because it was literally a minute. All this stuff transpired. I was like, "Yeah, I can remember his wife beater,
Yeah.
his blue jean shorts.
Well,
his
he's not
do-rag."
he's not the first criminal to look for a movie theater for some point of refuge. I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald
Right.
did that. Yeah, don't you remember? He shot Kennedy, and then they traced him back into a movie theater. And let's not forget John Dillinger.
Right.
They busted a cap in him right out of a theater. And, you had all the ingredients. You got guns, you got a theater, you got criminals. You just missed your opportunity. So when you are in a place like that and you've got to have a boatload of kids there, like on the weekends and stuff, every time I think about people around a bunch of kids that have to, play service to them in some fashion or another, all I can think about is when I was in grade school, and that horrible smell of like the I don't know if it was like shavings of wood or something, that when somebody puked and they had to drop the wood shavings
yeah, to soak it up.
on the vomit to soak it up. And I don't know which smelled worse, the vomit or the stuff they were putting on top of it, that just, I'm sure if I smelled it right now, it would take me back to fourth grade. But did you guys have to deal with a lot of kids getting sick?
You wouldn't have the same thing because now it's a chemical and it smells worse than that because I've smelled the other. And it would basically turn it all into this hard, no longer liquid chunks. And you'd sweep it into a dustpan and then go throw it in the trash can. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever done. And
That's pretty gross.
mind you, I was always the one that's gung-ho for stuff. I would usually clean them up anyway, but I would always almost vomit on top of it. That's how much I hated that. I'm not a vomit person at all. There was one time my manager actually had me go clean up a bathroom because somebody shit all over the toilet and the wall.
Oh,
It was amazing that they could even do it. I was kind of impressed, but also disgusted at the same time.
people are animals.
But this manager, he knows he doesn't have a good gag reflex. So this asshole comes up behind me to check on me to see how I'm doing. He almost vomits on my back. And he knows who he is if he's listening.
I'd pay to see that. Yeah, I'd pay to see that. A whole barfarama right there in the middle of the theater. Now, I've been to that theater approximately 835 times. I've seen my fair share of movies that I really liked, and I've seen some real shit there. The question I have for you is, you ever get people watch a movie and go, that sucked so bad, I want my money back?
Not me personally, but I've had it happen. We've had it happen a couple times.
You just give the money back?
No, we can't. Like, they've already watched the movie. They can't give the money back. So that's another little screw you from the entertainment
Do you remember
industry.
the movie? What movie had the most? I want my money back.
Yeah, this movie sucks so bad.
Well, it wasn't the one that I heard, like, specifically to me was Sausage Party.
Oh, that's a good movie.
No, because they took their kids to it.
Oh,
that's
that's
on them.
that's a party foul.
yeah,
on
I'm
them.
just like, you can't expect us to give money back for your bad decision.
Yeah. I will tell you, at the Continent, where I've talked about before, I went there, and this was as an adult, a young adult, to see a movie called The Thin Red
I
Line.
was going to bring this up.
And were you with us in that?
I was.
Okay, so Chris and his wife Sue were with us at that movie. And just to give you an idea, it wasn't Stanley Kubrick, but it was a director who had stepped away from behind the camera for a long time, and he just came back. And they put together this entire promotion for like 2 weeks prior to this movie coming out, saying it's got all these stars, it's got George Clooney, it's got Sean Penn, all these people. And so we go to see this movie, and Chris, back me up here. Maybe I'm just, not hoity-toity enough to understand this movie, but it was the dumbest goddamn movie I've ever seen in my life.
We hated it.
It was not only horrible. I just remember it's this guy reminiscing about his girlfriend, but he's at war, and you can't tell if it's him with her after the war or him reminiscing about pre-war when they were together. And the whole thing was so dumb, made up of a bunch of dream sequences. And at the very end, probably the last minute and a half, there's George Clooney.
Right.
And he's, like a drill sergeant or something. And then the movie just abruptly ended.
Yep. Woody Harrelson was in it too.
And Woody Harrelson was in it. And I'll never forget when the credits started rolling, there was about 5 seconds of silence. And I've never seen this before or since. And back me up here, Chris. People were pissed.
Yes.
They were like, what the hell is this?
Yep.
And there was a mad dash to the office. People were asking for their money back. I didn't have time for that.
We didn't.
We were just like, yeah, it sucked, but we learned our lesson.
And keep in mind, this was during the dating phase, or maybe we were just married. So we didn't have kids yet. So what did we do? We went to movies
All the
every
time.
weekend. And we went as double dated, if you will, Scott and I and our wives. And out of the hundreds of movies we've seen together,
Only one.
we were like, what in the hell was that?
And I saw, dozens of people heading to get their money back. It was so bad. So we've had many conversations about what's the worst movie you've ever seen. That one is in my top 10. It might be 1 or 2. Our friends Jim and Carol think Eyes Wide Shut. I would watch Eyes Wide Shut on a loop for 24 hours before I would go see Thin Red Line again.
And if I remember right, as a gag gift for Christmas about 3 years later, I think I got you the DVD of that movie.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So no complaints then, Luke, on at least requesting money back for movies.
No, there is one movie I wanted to request money back, and that was for Ghostbusters, but I won't tell you which one. You just gotta leave that to your imagination.
So let me ask you this. You said they won't give you the money back because you've watched the movie. What if I walk out 5 minutes into the movie? Then can I get my money back?
There's wiggle room within 30 minutes usually.
Okay.
Good to know. This is now a public service announcement.
Well, it might have changed since I was there, but like some people will come out with emergencies. That's fine. Well, like it's usually whenever we'll have it until it goes off of the board, so it's
Yeah.
no longer showing it. That's usually the time frame we would go when I was there.
Let's face it. I wouldn't ask for my money back. I would just go to the next theater and watch the next movie.
We did deals like that too, or we give out movie passes.
Sure.
Whenever there was only 2 times in my entire time working there, but we lost power completely. And we had to go through every theater
yeah.
and give out movie
shit.
passes.
That would suck.
And then the other time it happened, we got it back within 10 minutes. But that was still scary as shit. Trying
Yeah,
to
that would
like
suck.
get all these people in the dark
Mm-hmm.
in these theaters, which the only light that this theater has is its main like atrium area. It's all glass. Anywhere else, it's pitch black unless
Yeah.
the emergency lights are on.
Yeah, that'd be a little freaky. Great place to play hide and seek, though, in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we did that for a Christmas party.
I'm sure. Now, I wanted to ask you this one, too. We ask people this all the time, only because Chris and I are somewhat pranksters. Did you guys ever run any pranks on people as you worked there? That you could think of?
There were a couple I wanted to do, but I never got to do them. I mean, we saran wrapped one of our guys' car, which is a standard dumb prank. One of my managers, this is when Pokemon Go was a big thing. He tricked half the staff to come out and he just sprayed them all with silly string. Nothing too crazy. I mean, my managers, when I was in box office, would prank call me, and I had to sit there and just be super kind and polite because God forbid it wasn't them. But I'm like, I can tell who you are. I know, like, the voice, everything. And then I could see them walk by to see how I was reacting. I'm like, okay. I can't be caught, even if another manager comes in and I'm talking like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. You missed a big opportunity there. And shame on me for not giving you some guidance as a child. But the reality is, I've seen you guys throw away bags of popcorn the size of Volkswagens. That should have been inside somebody's car. Just saying. Something to think about for the future.
Sans bag, huh?
You really should have just opened up a sunroof and taken that gigantic bag of popcorn and just filled it up.
Yeah, I can't remember any other pranks that we did because they weren't that memorable if we even tried to. Like, we'd try to scare the shit out of each other anytime you rounded a
Oh, in
corner.
a dark theater? Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be on all the time.
I loved when Halloween came around, especially when I made customers scream because I would do the Pennywise laugh to scare all the girls coming out of there. Because they would try to go to see it, all underage. All these 13-year-olds try to go see it, and it's just so funny, just messing with them.
Do you still keep in contact with people over there?
Kinda. I see them occasionally. We got together recently for a not one of the best reasons, but we all got back together and we hung out a little bit and embraced each other just because we'd not seen each other in so long.
Because you'd gone through the horror together of working at the movie theater?
Yeah, we actually had a group chat called I don't know if I can say it. Never mind. I don't know if the company's still technically around, but it's owned by somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, trust me. You working in the theater, walk in the park compared to working in fast food, brother. So be glad you worked in the theater.
Yeah, the worst thing I would get is a popcorn kernel gets stuck down my shirt. You would have to deal with worse stuff doing dishwashing.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I was glad to see that my kids did not have to start in like where Chris and I started, which was, working in food, because it is a different world. And, I'd prefer you not work there if you can avoid it.
You were talking about pranks. This isn't really a prank per se, but I had a roommate once who was at the movies with his girlfriend, and an usher comes in and was like, "Oh, are you so-and-so?" And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, my God, you have an emergency call at the counter. We've been looking at every theater for you, some kind of family emergency." So they go running out. They get to the phone. She's like, "Hello?" And it's her sister. "Hey, can you stop at the store on the way home and pick something up?" They came.
We
home.
really need milk.
They were so pissed. They came home. They're like, "Can you believe what her sister did?"
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Oh, I would have killed my sister if she did that.
That must have been pre-cell phone, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Because this is before we were married. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line. Like, if you watch old TV or anything like that, most of the premises wouldn't work because
Cell
you
phones,
simply have
right.
a cell phone. Everyone
Right,
can be
right.
got to. So, Yeah, I imagine that someone calling a theater saying, "Hey, could you go into the so and so theater and see if you can find Sally?" I don't think that's probably happened in 15, 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, the cell phones would have definitely changed Home Alone. It would have been 5 minutes.
Right. Mom, get your ass back here. That'd have been the end of it.
Mom, there's guys looking in the house. I called 911 already.
Right. So while you're at the movie theater, do you get any like strange requests or anything like that? I mean, just working with the public, it takes all kinds. We've talked about different types of movies and sometimes some weird stuff that happens. You ever get any strange requests at the theater?
Yeah, I would say the strangest requests I get are from illiterate people, because there are signs right above me that say restroom. That's a common one that people kept asking me, and I'd have to point them, just look above me. It's right down the hall and to the right, or right down the hall and to the left. And but that was one of the more tame ones. It just happened a lot.
It's dark and disorienting. They maybe just came out of a movie. I'll give them a break on that one.
No, these were people coming in.
Even so, it's still, maybe they were outside in the light. They're coming into the dark because it's kind of a dark area.
Yeah. Well, one of the weirder requests I've had, actually, this one happened to a buddy of mine. We were making jokes about it afterwards, but he said a woman came in and she's like, "Hey, am I allowed to bring my vibrator into 50 Shades of Grey?" And he looked at her with the most confused face and he goes, No, I don't think so. Just very meek, very like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, thank you for asking, but no.
Right. Why ask? Just do it.
Yeah.
And after that, we were like, oh yeah, we should put cucumbers on all the seats, see which ones turn into pickles. Just dumb shit like that.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird question. I think she was just trying to get a response from you guys.
I hope so, because if you did that in the middle of a theater, like, I hope everybody else is in on it at least.
Well, first of all, you're gonna hear it.
I just think they turned on their vibrator, like the vibration on their phone. They're just very popular. I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. Again, you get all kinds of weird things that happen when you're dealing with people. Well, thanks a lot, Luke, for talking to us today. This is the time where I ask Chris, what did we learn today?
Yeah, I learned that if you go to enough theaters, you will eventually find some free cheesecake.
That is true. It may take a little doing, but you'll find it. I learned that from now on, when I go into theater with my gun, I'm bringing a holster. I can't afford to have it fall between the cracks again. All right. Well, hey, thanks again, Luke. This is Scott McLaughlin.
This is Chris Kiernan
saying, we'll see you at work.
Thank you for listening to the Not in the Job Description podcast. If you have a story you'd like to share, or if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know by sending us an email with a brief description of your story to stories@notinthejob.com.